And it's a very good morning to the Gelding. A bit longer pre-match conversation than normal. Gelding, we had to talk about a couple of things before we came on air today. And one of the things we were talking about is we're going to Eagle Farm and steering away from Sandown. Good morning, Gelding.
Good morning, Professor. Good morning, listeners. Yes, Queensland's biggest race, the Stradbroke, the $3 million Stradbroke's on today, Professor. So probably the end of the carnivals for the year. So we thought, well, Eagle Farm on a good four track, best jockeys, best horses up there, Professor. Having a look at Sandown, it's it's a hard meeting, I would have thought.
Can I use a word, Gelding?
Yes.
Ordinary. It's an ordinary meeting.
Okay.
And what I would say to punters is good luck if you're trying to pick a winner there today. I had a look at the first few races and scratching my head. Yes, I think Eagle Farm a far better investment for punters today.
Yes, Professor. With you 100% on that. So, yeah, and tipping a stable and a jockey to do very, very well, hopefully.
Yeah, we are, Gelding. 9-race program. The first's at 11:43, so I'll have to get on my bike to get these bets on. And the last's at 4:35. So
yes,
a punter-friendly finish, although the days do last longer in Queensland.
They do indeed. About the time of the game, the 4:35 ending, it'd be about the time the football game in Melbourne starts, doesn't it?
Yeah, will you just be dining on sweets at that stage, Gelding?
Probably, hopefully, Professor. I'll be looking for the halftime snacks.
Oh, the cheese plate.
Yeah,
the cheese board.
Yeah, we'll wait and see what happens there. Remember, and the AFL were very much telling us that it's now one of the premier slots, a 4:30 slot on a Saturday afternoon, Professor.
Yeah,
I would have thought the 2 o'clock or the 2:30 start would have been the ideal start.
Yes, Gelding. If I was ranking them in order, the 4:35 would be the least favourite.
Not the push coming from the AFL, Professor.
Well, you know the Gelding.
And they're never wrong, are they?
No, they're never wrong. I can live with the 105. I can live with the 2 and the 2:30. The 7:30 at a pinch. The 4:35, no, it not only ruins the morning and afternoon, it ruins the night as well. So it's in that no man's land where you're not going to get anything done.
I agree with you completely, Professor. And is that the push for the we won't have a night grand final, we'll have a day grand final. We'll just start it in the light at 4:35.
Oh, Gelding. All right, the track at Eagle Farm's rated a good 4 at the moment. Now, Gelding, they're very precise in Queensland. The rail is not out 5 metres.
No.
It's not out 4 metres.
No.
It's out 4.5 metres. And that half metre, are you telling me, Gelding, that half metre is going to make all the difference?
Oh, it's a lane, Professor, because where was it previously?
Well, go on, Gelding.
It was in the 2.5 metre.
Oh, right.
So we're out 2.5 metres. Now we're out another further 2. So it's a big track.
Well, if you're using 2.5 metres as a measurement, Gelding, why wouldn't you now be at 5, 2.5 further out?
Don't bring common sense into it, Professor.
All right, Gelding. Now, listen, before I ask you for your tips, there was news yesterday from Racing Victoria that the new appointments have been made to the Racing Victoria board, Tim Rourke and Mark Player. One thing I noticed, Gelding, I didn't see Gillan McLaughlin's name there. What happened? All this publicity that he was making a run for the board doesn't get on
it. Different school tie, was it, or is the boys'
that couldn't
club?
Be right, could it, Gelding?
No, the boys' club at the yeah. Well, look, Professor, I'm just amazed when they appoint members to boards and things like that. I look at the selection to the board. Oh, vast experience in the energy sector, right? We're talking about sport and racing, Professor. Like, you look at your administration history in sport, They come knocking on your door?
No.
No. We'll go to someone that's in the energy industry. And what is the energy industry? Isn't everyone complaining about the high costs of how much
Power is,
electricity,
yes.
power, all these is?
But Gelding is a thoroughbred owner and breeder. Come on.
Well,
he's got foundations in the sport.
Well, is that because the energy companies and the people of Melbourne and Victoria are paying too much for the electricity, and he might be taking a very big pay pack at home?
Well, look where Gillan McLachlan started with the AFL, when he started as the CEO there and where he finished. I think he knows a little bit about sport, doesn't he?
Yep.
And how to run it?
Well, everyone says he was a success at the AFL, Professor.
Yes. Can't get on the Racing Victoria board.
Well,
you mentioned the wrong tie. Gelding, you mentioned the wrong tie. Just taking a detour out there. Name the last president of a major sporting board who wore a high school tie. Oh, come on. It's not that hard. I've just served you up a Dorothy Dixer.
I know, but the person that I'll mention probably won't want to claim that as part of his heritage.
Don't worry, Gelding, he won't be watching the program.
All right. Well, I'll go MCC Chairman Stephen Smith.
That's exactly right, Gelding. He wore the same school tie that you and I wore. Yes,
but I don't think he says he's Stephen Smith of McKinnon. I think it's more Stephen Smith of Hawthorn.
Hawthorn. Well, he's been Gelding. I've invited him on a number of occasions onto Sportsfan. We'll never trace out. No, I think he's a bit worried about what we're going to ask him. All right.
Nah, wouldn't have anything on him, would we?
Well, I wouldn't, but you might well have. All right, Gelding, what are your two best bets for Eagle Farm today?
Professor, you crack me up sometimes. You really do. Very light entertainment for a Saturday morning. Professor, going with me old chestnut, as the listeners would know, and as well as you know, Professor, certainly a Godolphin stable, the Blue Army fan. I regard James McDonald as probably the best jockey in Australia, if not Australasia. His number of wins over in Hong Kong and recently another Group 1 in Japan. McDonald, he rode 5 last week. So, let's stay with the strength, Professor. I'm sticking with the Godolphin stable in race 6, number 1, Broadsiding. This horse has won its last 3. Sensational win last start over in its last race when it flashed home down the outside. Today's race being 1,600 metres, Professor, by the up-and-coming stallion, Too Darn Hot. I think this will be just about the bet of the day. Race 6, number 1, Broadsiding. Drawn barrier 2, Professor, will get back in the field, but be looking for McDonald to be trying to get out to the wider going and coming down the middle of the track on Broadsiding. Then the main race, the $3 million Stradbroke. James McDonald, of course, hasn't got a ride, probably due to the compressed weights, Professor. I notice his lightest ride is 55.5. There's only 2 horses with that or a higher weight in the Stradbroke, being Bella Nipotina and Magic Time, both with regular jockeys, Williams and D in there. So we're going to have the best jockey, unfortunately, sitting on the sidelines when the best race in Queensland is run today. But I do like the Blue Army and race 8, number 6, Villana. Again, James Cummings train. Tim Clark takes over the ride from James McDonald. Again, Professor, this horse won quite comfortably last start by some 2 lengths going away from them. Just, 3 3/4 lengths, Professor. Just sat midfield, balanced up, came down the centre of track. Looking for the same here today. A lot tougher race, but as we said, drops in weight. 54 kilos. 53 kilos. Coming from barrier 14. I think this horse will be ideally placed, and looking forward to the Blue Army having a very big day today, Professor. And you like?
Well, I hope they do, Gelding. I hope they do. I'm going very early today, Gelding. I'm going race 1, the Wayne Wilson, a listed race for 3-year-old horses and above, and just emphasise listed race, over 1,600 metres. I like in this one, Gelding, horse number 1, Freedom Rally, coming out of barrier 1. It's had 14 starts for 6 wins and 4 placings, so a 43% win rate, a 71% place rate. The horse is in a weaker class, Gelding. I say that because its last start was a 4th in the Group 1 Kingsford Smith Cup at this track. It was 4th to I Wish I Win. Now, that you know how we rate I Wish I Win?
Yep.
So that's not a bad result to run 4th. The second horse in that race, though, Gelding, was Bella Nipotina, who's running in the main race today.
Who's the top weight in the 3-year-old in the $3 million race.
That's right, Gelding. So we've got the first selection for us today is a horse that's running Group 1 company and just out of the placings. And the second horse is running in the main race. So Freedom Rally on that form might have got a start in the Stradbroke, but now it's only running in a listed race. So I think that form line should be good. It's 1 at the track. It's 1 at the distance. It ticks a lot of boxes. McDonald's in the saddle, Gelding. You mentioned his form. You're quite right. 21% win rate for his career, but over his last 50, Gelding, he's killing it 30%.
That's unbelievable.
Don't worry about the placings, right? A third of the horses he's saddling up, he's winning on.
Yep.
That's an excellent. It's an excellent strike rate for a jockey. So he should get the day off to a great start for GM Racing. Tony Gollan's in career form, 16% over the last 50. So I'm going with the McDonald Tony Gollan combination in race 1, number 1, Freedom Rally. And my second selection, Gelding.
Well, did you notice, before you go on with that, Professor?
Yes, Gelding.
Freedom Rally was first emergency in the Stradbroke.
Well, yes, I
And
see.
of course,
didn't get a run.
Didn't get a run. So
no scratching. So you've got a horse that even takes it further. A horse that was an emergency, didn't get a run in the main race, is running in race 1 as a listed race. Like I would hope that it runs to form, because if it does, it'll get our day off to a very nice start.
Yes, I like it, Professor.
All right, race 2, the Hinkler Handicap, a listed race over 1,200 metres, this one, Gelding. I like in this race, I'm going for the Blue Army, McDonald and Cummings. Number 5, Parile, coming out of barrier 9, had 16 starts for 4 wins and 11 placings.
It's unbelievable, isn't it?
Yes, Gelding. The last 4, 2 wins and 2 placings. So it's doing very well over its last 4. 25% win rate, 94% place rate. I do like that, Gelding. Might keep, if it can't win, it'll at least keep our place parlays alive.
Yep.
It's in a stronger class. It won by 4 lengths the last start on a heavy track. It's 1 over the distance, and I'm expecting the McDonald Cummings team to get the day off to an even better start after race 1, Gelding. You can currently get $2.15. I think it might start a little bit longer than that. So my 2 selections for today: race 1, horse 1, Freedom Rally; race 2, horse 5, Parile.
Very early in the day, Professor.
Yes, Gelding. I'm going to have to drop everything as soon as we finish this program, get my skates on and get those bets on.
Beautiful.
All right, the Professor's parlay, Gelding. We seem to be stuck on the 2 out of 3.
Yes, having a bit of a trot, Professor, but not always the racing.
Always the racing, Gelding. You're right. Unfortunately, it was the racing on Monday, though.
Oh, yes.
King's birthday. Mornington race 7, Sue Spirit, Gelding. Now, coming around the turn, I thought We are well placed here.
Yep.
We are well placed. All we need is a little bit of a run and we're off, right? No ping. Let me say that horse went up and down in the same spot for about 100 metres.
It was a rocking horse, up and down, up and down, up and down. Yes, it did, coming around that turn with only a short straight of 250 metres at Mornington. We're thinking, give us that little bit of ping, and as one of your favourite saying, the horse had no ping, Professor. There was nothing there. They hit the button.
Well, Gelding, I always make notes in my little book after each race.
Yeah.
Here's my note next to Sue Spirit. Found nothing.
Never again.
No, found nothing.
Found nothing.
3.5 lengths sixth, Gelding. So I suppose for a rocking horse, it didn't do too bad for sixth. But, what can you say? Our expectation was that we would get more value when it came into the straight. Like that looked like a horse that should have been about 30 to 1 when it came into the straight.
It was struggling.
It was struggling, Gelding.
It was struggling.
Well,
hopefully a bit different today. Professor, I can tell you broadsiding has got ping.
Has got ping. Well, that's good, Gelding. So the other two legs for those playing at home, Collingwood beat Melbourne quite handily, and Canterbury got up in the end, Gelding. Oh, what a wonderful day it was for the Canterbury Bulldogs to beat Parramatta. I watched the end of the game, Gelding. It was just magnificent. And the Bulldogs are in the 8. So what looked like a terrible selection by the Giraffe, saying that the Bulldogs would finish in the 8 this season, seems prescient now. What a great tipster he is.
He is indeed. Very entertaining fellow too.
And his Rabbitohs are on a roll.
Yes. So let's see what happens.
They might make the 8 the way they're playing.
It's beautiful.
All right, this week, Gelding. The agreed bet of the day for what all you said before in your summation of your tips. Race 6, horse 1, broadsiding, because it does have ping.
Yes.
And let's parlay that into Collingwood to beat North Melbourne. Collingwood 6th on the ladder, coming off a great win against Melbourne on King's birthday. 7 wins and 2 draws from 13 starts. More concentrating on North Melbourne, Gelding. Don't get carried away by last week's win. I think you can ignore that. That's an outlier. They're 18th. They've only won 1 from 12. Let me give you these. Let me give you these details, Gelding. They're 18th in points for. Their average is 66.5 a game. That's 17th on average, and only second last to Richmond, who are last.
Mm-hmm.
Their average points against 18th, and their average points against worked out 113.5, and that's also 18th. So
Jesus, when they're kicking 17 goals against you, you're in trouble, aren't you?
Yes, you are, Gelding. And so the line, notwithstanding North Melbourne won last week, the line's 41.5, so almost 7 goals. And I think Collingwood will win handily.
Mm-hmm.
Now, my second selection today would have been whoever was playing Melbourne. But Melbourne have got the bye.
Can the bye win?
Yeah, the bye might win. I think the bye will win, Gelding. So we're going to the NRL. I know that, but Gelding, Canterbury did beat Parramatta, so I should be given a week's grace on the NRL to see how I go. And we're going for the Sydney Roosters to beat the Parramatta Eels. Sydney Roosters 7th on the ladder, 7 from 100, 7 from 13. What I like, Gelding, is their points differential, plus 133. When they score heavily. Parramatta Eels, not so. They're 15th, only won 4 from 13. They were pretty disappointing, Gelding. They had the lead against the Bulldogs, couldn't hang on. And they're coming off a short turnaround as well. What I don't like about them, Gelding, they've got a minus 111 points differential. So there's a 244-point turnaround there.
Yes. We'll watch and see, Professor.
We'll watch and see. The line 6.5, Gelding. So I like, so the parlay once more, race 6, horse 1 at Eagle Farm, broadsiding, into Collingwood to beat North Melbourne, into Sydney Roosters to beat Parramatta Eels. The win parlay currently showing 5-2, Gelding. The place parlay currently showing 3-2.
Lovely, Professor. And I'll be relying on you today.
Yes, you will, Gelding. I've got football duties as well. I'm heading east to watch Traralgon play.
Right.
But I will be checking my phone regularly to see what's happening with the races.
We'll be doing the same thing, Professor.
All right, Gelding. Until next Saturday, and that's